The world stage is constantly shifting, with numerous significant events unfolding globally. Today, we delve into a complex issue that touches upon economics, politics, and human desperation. Immigrants are no longer just finding ways through border fences. Their journeys have evolved. They are traversing treacherous jungles, vast oceans, and entire continents, all driven by the goal of reaching the United States border. But there is a twist in this narrative. The primary nations contributing to the flow of illegal immigrants into the U.S. are not always the ones commonly presumed. What compels individuals to risk everything? They confront dangerous cartels, navigate collapsing infrastructure like bridges, and even brave rivers teeming with crocodiles. What conditions back in their homelands are so dire that attempting to enter another country illegally feels like the sole viable path? And here is a striking element. A portion of these migrants aren't simply coming from neighboring regions. They are undertaking long flights across the globe before even beginning their overland trek. Prepare yourself, because the reality of where illegal immigrants truly originate might fundamentally alter your perspective. We will explore the factors driving these hazardous journeys and reveal the surprising list of top-sending countries, offering conclusions at the end of our analysis. Your engagement is vital for our channel's growth, so please consider liking this video, subscribing for more in-depth reports, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Stay with us until the end, as we will synthesize these findings and present key conclusions based on the information discussed. Let's begin with number 10. Mexico. The methods have changed. People are not simply crawling under fences anymore. They trek through scorching deserts, conceal themselves in tractor trailers, or attempt to scale imposing 30-foot steel walls equipped with little more than hope clutched in their hands. Behind the majority of these border crossings lies Mexico. No other nation comes close in sheer numbers. Currently, over 5.2 million undocumented immigrants residing in the U.S. originate from Mexico alone. This phenomenon, however, transcends the simple pursuit of the American dream. It is fundamentally about individuals fleeing for their very lives. Entire communities within Mexico have been effectively taken over by powerful cartels. Extortion is not merely a threat. It has become a routine, often weekly, financial demand. When faced with the stark choices of joining a gang, paying exorbitant sums to one, or facing death, many feel compelled to head north. Yet here is a truly jaw-dropping statistic. Despite stricter U.S. border enforcement policies, more than 740,000 Mexicans were still apprehended at the border in the year 2023. That equates to roughly 2,000 individuals per day. This staggering number forces us to ask, what precisely is occurring south of the border that is so unbearable? What desperation drives people to prefer risking death during the perilous journey over remaining in their home country for even another week? The scale of this migration points towards deep-seated issues far beyond simple economic aspiration, suggesting a complex web of violence, instability, and fear pushing vast numbers of people towards an uncertain future in a new land. Moving to number 9, Guatemala. It is common to assume that illegal immigration is primarily driven by the search for better job opportunities. But what if the reality is more complex? What if people are escaping circumstances far worse than mere poverty? Consider Guatemala. In 2023, nearly 300,000 Guatemalans were apprehended attempting to cross into the United States. Among them were mothers carrying toddlers strapped tightly to their backs, enduring unimaginable hardships. Others were unaccompanied teenagers, isolated and terrified, undertaking journeys spanning thousands of miles on foot. Why undertake such a perilous voyage? Because in certain regions of Guatemala, the environment is so dangerous that children learn survival skills, like dodging bullets, before they even master reading. Criminal gangs exert dominance over entire areas, creating a climate of fear. In these places, refusing recruitment into a gang can result in fatal consequences for an entire family. The institutions meant to protect citizens offer little solace. The police force is often perceived as corrupt, unable, or unwilling to provide safety. Job opportunities are scarce, leaving many with limited economic prospects. Consequently, Personal safety is virtually non-existent. This grim reality leaves many feeling they have no choice but to flee. But here is what truly underscores the desperation. Many migrants originating from Guatemala do not travel by air. They walk. Their journey takes them through formidable mountain ranges, across highways controlled by ruthless cartels, and even through the notorious Darien Gap. This stretch of dense jungle is recognized as one of the most lethal migration corridors on the entire planet, fraught with natural dangers and predatory criminal elements. Despite these immense risks, they continue to come. They press forward because the situation they are leaving behind, the constant threat of violence, the lack of opportunity, the pervasive fear, is often perceived as more terrifying than any danger that lies ahead on their arduous path north. The sheer volume of people undertaking this trek speaks volumes about the severity of the crisis, pushing them from their homes. Before we proceed to the next country, please take a moment to support our channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Doing so helps us continue bringing you the unvarnished truth, uncovering the stories that often go untold. Every subscription helps us expose these critical realities, one narrative at a time. Your support is invaluable. And trust us, the situation in the next country we are about to discuss is even darker, revealing another layer of the complex factors driving global migration patterns. Number 8 is Honduras. The ordeal frequently begins with a simple knock on the door, usually late at night. This is followed by silence. You hesitate to answer, not because you are asleep, but because you understand the potential consequences if you do. This is not unfounded paranoia. It reflects the harsh reality of life in certain parts of Honduras. It is startling how many migrants are not primarily chasing the elusive American dream. Instead, they are desperately running from a living nightmare. In Honduras, entire cities have tragically transformed into battlegrounds for warring gangs. The nation ranks among the most dangerous countries in the Western Hemisphere. Gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 do not merely operate in the streets. They effectively own them, controlling neighborhoods with iron fists. Refusing to pay the demanded war tax, a form of extortion, can lead to the seizure of your home, or even worse, the abduction of your child. The situation is dire. In 2023 alone, over 200,000 Hondurans were apprehended at the U.S. border. It is crucial to remember that this number only accounts for those who were caught. Thousands more successfully made it through, unseen, undocumented, and unheard. What is even more disturbing is the significant number of families among these migrants. Parents are undertaking this perilous journey with toddlers, and teenagers are traveling entirely alone. Why? Because in many parts of Honduras, the government's presence is negligible or non-existent. Police stations stand abandoned, and schools have been taken over by criminal elements. In certain neighborhoods, gangs enforce strict curfews, and violating them can be a death sentence. The journey itself offers no respite. These migrants hike through regions heavily controlled by cartels, often lacking basic necessities like food, maps, or money. They find shelter along riverbanks, drink from potentially contaminated puddles, and constantly pray they avoid kidnapping or human trafficking along the treacherous route. Tragically, some do not survive this brutal trek. Now, consider this profound question. What must life be like if facing such extreme dangers feels safer than staying home? This is not about seeking opportunity. It is about sheer survival. We are not discussing dreams. We are witnessing desperation disguised as courage, a flight from circumstances so unbearable that any risk seems preferable. At number 7, we find El Salvador. This nation was once poetically called the land of volcanoes. Now, it could perhaps be described as a land of fear, secrets, and a desperate struggle for survival. Behind the simplified headlines, El Salvador continues to be a significant source of undocumented migrants heading towards the United States. The reasons, however, are not always what you might expect. Yes, President Bukele has implemented a stringent crackdown on gangs, which has demonstrably lowered murder rates. These are the facts often highlighted. But what frequently remains unseen in the sanitized reports is the substantial collateral damage resulting from these policies. Tens of thousands of individuals have been incarcerated, often without due process or trial. Families have been torn apart by mass arrests, and entire communities have been displaced due to the ongoing conflict and the government's response. And here is a crucial point. In the countryside, the gangs have not vanished. They have merely gone underground, becoming more ruthless and clandestine in their operations. In 2023, over 150,000 Salvadorans were intercepted at the U.S. border. Many of these individuals are not just escaping the endemic crime that plagued the nation for years. They are also fleeing the very crackdown intended to solve it. It is a complex paradox. You would be surprised how many migrants express fear of both the criminals and the government forces. When trust in all institutions erodes, the police, the government, even community structures, people feel they have nowhere to turn. They look north, and that is when they start their arduous journey. But here is the ultimate punchline. Migrants from El Salvador are acutely aware that the journey itself might kill them. They understand the risks involved in traversing multiple countries, facing cartels, and navigating dangerous terrains. And yet, they still choose to go. Why? Because for many, the situation back home offers no discernible future. There is only pervasive fear and a lack of hope. Returning is often not perceived as a viable option when your old neighborhood might be gone, when a family member like a cousin might have been kidnapped for ransom, or when your only perceived choice is between flight and potential death. The decision to leave, therefore, stems from a profound sense of hopelessness about their prospects within El Salvador itself. Before we reveal the next country on our list, we ask you again to ensure you've hit that subscribe button. This type of raw, unfiltered truth often gets buried by algorithms. Supporting this content ensures we can keep exposing what most headlines won't touch. Help us keep digging deeper and telling the stories that need to be heard. Number 6. Venezuela. It began subtly. First, the lights flickered out more frequently. Then, the water stopped running reliably. After that, essential medicine vanished from pharmacy shelves. And in Venezuela, that was merely the beginning of a profound national crisis. You would be shocked to learn how many people are literally walking out of this country on foot, crossing entire continents, driven by the simple fundamental chance to survive. This is not about striving for prosperity or chasing wealth. It is purely about staying alive. Venezuela, once the most affluent nation in South America, has tragically collapsed into a severe humanitarian disaster. Runaway hyperinflation has rendered the national currency practically worthless, wiping out savings and making everyday goods unaffordable. Hospitals lack basic supplies, including essential antibiotics. Store shelves are frequently empty. If you are fortunate, you might find rice. If not, you go hungry. And now, the United States is directly experiencing the impact of this collapse. In the year 2023, over 334,000 Venezuelans were encountered at the southern border. This number is exploding at a rate faster than most people realize. These migrants are not simply slipping across borders unnoticed. Many are flying to other South American countries first, then undertaking the grueling overland journey. This includes hiking through the perilous Darien Gap. Yes, that same deadly jungle, and eventually navigating their way towards the United States. But guess what? A significant portion of these migrants are not from the poorest segments of society. They are middle-class individuals, engineers, teachers, nurses, people who, until recently, had established lives, salaries, and homes. All of that is gone. And the situation gets even darker. Criminal cartels and human traffickers specifically target Venezuelans precisely because they are often desperate, lacking proper documentation, and without any support system. They become easy prey for extortion and exploitation. Some tragically do not survive the treacherous trek north. Here is a sobering question. What happens when a country fails so completely that its citizens embark on a journey through 6 other nations just to escape? And perhaps more importantly, what awaits them when they finally reach the U.S., only to potentially face another barrier, another wall? The Venezuelan exodus is a stark illustration of national failure on an epic scale. Number 5. Nicaragua. The individuals arriving from this nation are not primarily fleeing gang violence. They are not escaping drug wars in the traditional sense. They are running from their own government. We are talking about Nicaragua. You might be shocked at how rapidly this country descended into authoritarian chaos. Just a short time ago, it was holding elections, presenting a facade of democracy. The next thing you know, the president is imprisoning priests, banning public protests, and crushing political opposition with the ruthlessness of a dictator lifted straight from the pages of a history textbook. In 2023, over 164,000 Nicaraguans were intercepted at the U.S. border, a figure more than double the previous year's count. Many of these individuals are not just workers seeking economic opportunity. They are journalists, students, grandparents, essentially anyone who dared to voice dissent or question the regime. What makes the Nicaraguan situation distinct? The suffocating silence. You will not see this prominently featured on mainstream television news. There are no major headlines screaming about this specific crisis daily. But behind the closed doors and censored media, the Ortega regime is systematically suffocating its own people. Citizens are constantly watched, routinely threatened, and sometimes simply disappeared. For those who remain, life feels like living inside a cage, never knowing when the door might slam shut permanently. So, they run. They run quietly. Quietly, like those who genuinely fear being heard. Quietly, like people who have been forced to bury their voices, and sometimes, tragically, bury their friends and family members who spoke out. The desperation is palpable, driving a significant and rapidly growing number of people to undertake the perilous journey north, seeking refuge from a government that has turned against its own populace. Before we delve into the next country, please hit that subscribe button. Help us continue our mission of digging deeper and sharing the stories that major news outlets often overlook. Your support enables us to bring these critical narratives to light. Number 4. Colombia. Not so long ago, this nation was widely portrayed as a comeback story. Tourism was increasing, peace talks were underway, and progress seemed tangible. However, if you peel back that surface layer, you uncover a deepening crisis, one that is quietly propelling thousands of people towards the U.S. border. We are referring to Colombia. It might surprise you to learn that in 2023, over 130,000 Colombians were encountered at the southern U.S. border. This figure has tripled since 2021. But here is the crucial point. This surge is not primarily driven by a return to widespread war. It is happening because the promised peace never fully materialized. Yes, the FARC rebels officially laid down their arms as part of a historic peace agreement. However, dozens of splinter guerrilla factions, powerful drug cartels, and various criminal syndicates swiftly moved in to fill the resulting power vacuum. Entire rural regions are now effectively under the control of these armed groups. Coca production, the raw material for cocaine, is currently higher than ever before recorded. Young people residing in impoverished areas are often faced with a stark choice: join one of these armed groups or flee. But the crisis extends beyond the countryside. Inflation is severely impacting families across the nation. Food prices have skyrocketed, making basic sustenance a daily struggle. Even within major cities like Medellin and Cali, previously symbols of progress, middle-class Colombians are increasingly slipping into poverty. Many are forced to sell everything they possess just to finance the arduous journey north, and the route they undertake is brutal. They cross into Panama, often traversing the deadly Darien Gap, a jungle expanse so perilous it is known as the Green Hell, rife with dangers like mudslides, venomous snakes, bandits, and the constant risk of death. It doesn't matter, because for many, what lies behind them in Colombia feels even worse. Have you ever considered what it takes for someone to abandon everything they know, their home, their family, their culture, and step into a lethal jungle without a map, guided only by desperation? Ask a Colombian migrant, because that is their harsh reality now. Number 3. Ecuador. You have likely heard of countries collapsing due to war, rampant corruption, or oppressive dictatorships. But this particular nation, Ecuador, is being torn apart by something relatively new: something termed narco-chaos. We are talking about Ecuador. You would likely be stunned to learn that in 2023 alone, over 100,000 Ecuadorians were apprehended at the U.S. border. This represents a country whose migration numbers few saw coming. But circumstances shifted dramatically and rapidly. In just 2 short years, Ecuador transformed from a nation considered relatively peaceful into a violent cartel battleground. Powerful drug lords now effectively run the ports, controlling the flow of narcotics. Prisons have become horrific war zones where rival gangs massacre each other. Entire cities feel like they are under siege. The situation escalated to such an extent that in January 2024, gangs even stormed and took over a television station, broadcasting their actions live on air. That is how far the chaos has descended. While the shocking violence grabs international headlines, what often goes unnoticed is the simultaneous economic collapse. Unemployment is climbing steadily, prices for essential goods are rising relentlessly, and ordinary people are scared to leave their homes yet terrified to remain in them. So, they flee. Young couples, teachers, teenagers, even police officers who feel powerless or threatened. They typically head north through Colombia, then into Panama, and straight into the unforgiving Darien Gap. Yes, that same deadly jungle, again. The challenges they face are immense. It's a stark reminder of the desperation driving this exodus. Now, here is the shocker. Ecuadorians were once among the least likely nationalities to migrate illegally to the U.S. Now, they represent one of the fastest growing groups arriving at the border. When peace dies so quickly, people disappear even faster. The rapid deterioration of security and the economy has left countless Ecuadorians feeling they have no other choice but to undertake the dangerous journey north. Before we move into the final countries, take a second to hit that subscribe button. We do not sugarcoat the truth here, we expose it. Your support helps us keep doing that, one country at a time. Trust me, what's coming next is beyond crisis. It's a collapse of civilization. Number 2. Haiti. There is collapse, and then there is the situation unfolding in Haiti. This is not merely a country experiencing a crisis. It is a nation where the very concept of government seems to have evaporated. Law and order no longer exist in any meaningful way, and violent gangs rule with unchecked, brutal power. In Port-au-Prince, the capital city, it is not the police who maintain control. It is heavily armed militias. Entire districts are dominated by gang leaders who operate like warlords. They effectively own the streets, they run the ports, and they have even taken over police stations. In some areas, they have seized control of vital food shipments, tragically deciding who eats and who starves. You would be shocked at how deep the chaos truly runs. Schools are permanently closed in many areas. Hospitals have been looted or simply abandoned by staff fearing for their lives. Even the United Nations has been forced to significantly scale back its operations, and most international aid workers have had to flee for their own safety. The people left behind are ordinary Haitians, trapped in an impossible situation between rampant violence, extreme hunger, and crushing hopelessness. In 2023 alone, more than 126,000 Haitian migrants were encountered at the U.S. border. But what makes their journey even more harrowing is the geographical reality. Haiti does not share a land border with the United States, or even mainland North America. Most of these individuals must first find a way to cross into South America, often ending up in countries like Brazil or Chile. From there, they begin the immense trek north, covering thousands of miles. This journey forces them through multiple dangerous jungles, cartel-controlled territories, and ultimately, the infamous Darien Gap, one of the most treacherous migration corridors on Earth. Some had already been living abroad for years, having previously fled Haiti. However, as anti-immigrant sentiment rises in various host countries, they find themselves pushed out once again, forced to leave behind what little stability they had managed to build. So they keep moving forward, because returning to Haiti is simply not an option. Not when your old neighborhood is gone, overrun by gangs. Not when your cousin was kidnapped for ransom. Not when your only perceived choice is between flight and almost certain death. There is no single cause behind Haiti's devastating collapse. It is the culmination of decades of political corruption, detrimental foreign interference, recurrent natural disasters, and catastrophic political failure, all spiraling into a situation that seems almost beyond repair. And here's the truly hard question. How do you even begin to rebuild a nation where the government essentially never shows up and the gangs never leave? Number 1. China. They were once viewed as the most improbable group among border crossers, quiet, geographically distant, largely unseen in typical migration narratives focused on the Americas. But now, they are arriving in record numbers. They travel through dense jungles, across wide rivers, hidden away in clandestine stash houses, often side by side with desperate migrants from across the globe. In 2023 alone, over 24,000 Chinese nationals were apprehended at the U.S. southern border. While that number might initially seem modest compared to others, consider this. It is more than 10 times the figure from just a few years prior, and this trend shows no signs of slowing down. So, what is compelling them to leave? It transcends mere political censorship or the fear of speaking freely. Although those are certainly factors, it is not even solely about escaping the control of the Chinese Communist Party. The issue runs deeper. What is unfolding in China right now is an unraveling of the promised future itself. Youth unemployment has surged past 20%, leaving a vast generation feeling adrift, without work, purpose, or hope for advancement. The real estate market, long considered the bedrock of wealth accumulation for ordinary Chinese citizens, is collapsing under mountains of debt. Entire ghost cities filled with empty apartment towers, built on speculation, now stand decaying in silence, and socially the oppressive atmosphere is tightening. Surveillance cameras track every step, internet posts are meticulously monitored, bank transactions are flagged for scrutiny, people disappear, sometimes for innocuous tweets, sometimes for no discernible reason at all. You'd be shocked at the lengths they go to reach the U.S. Many Chinese migrants fly into Ecuador, a country offering visa-free entry to Chinese citizens. From that point, they embark on the brutal journey north. They trek through Colombia, navigate the treacherous Darien Gap, and finally pass through cartel-run smuggling routes across Central America. This is not some fringe movement. These are engineers, teachers, shop owners, people who once believed in a prosperous future within China. Now, they are trading their middle-class stability, or what remained of it, for a perilous path through the jungle and a slim chance at breathing free air elsewhere. And here's the part that should make everyone pause and reflect. When citizens of the world's second-largest economy are willing to risk death by snakebite, robbery, or drowning just to escape their own country, what does that signal about the global trajectory? What does it tell us about the pressures building beneath the surface? This isn't just a migration wave, it's a profound warning sign. And it's one the world cannot afford to ignore. This entire phenomenon isn't solely about illegal immigration. It's about collapse, immense pressure, and desperation on a scale the world hasn't witnessed in decades. People are fleeing failed states like Haiti, authoritarian strongholds like China, narco-controlled zones like Ecuador, and broken economies like Venezuela. They are all walking the same perilous path, converging towards the U.S. border. We are not just observing migration. We are witnessing the dramatic fallout of global instability firsthand.